Kunle's grip on Whiskers tightened. The sense of being watched prickled at the back of his neck, and he took a cautious step backward. Leaving so soon, the clown's voice echoed from above. Kunle looked up to see the figure perched on a roof. Late one night in the quiet town of Abeokuta, 14-year-old Kunle awoke to a chill creeping to his room. The soft curtains fluttered, and he realized his window was wide open. Confused, he sat up and rubbed his eyes. "Whiskers?" he called out softly, expecting his beloved cat to be curled up at his feet, but the bed was empty. A knot formed in his stomach. Whiskers never left his side at night. Slipping into his slippers, Kunle tiptoed to the window and peered into the darkness. The street below was bathed in the moon's pale glow, shadows stretching long across the pavement. Leaves rustled gently, but there was no sign of movement. Determined to find his feline friend, Kunle grabbed a flashlight and quietly made his way downstairs, careful not to wake his parents. The front door creaked ever so slightly as he stepped into the cool night. "Whiskers," he whispered loudly, scanning the bushes and trees that lined the street. The silence was unsettling. As he walked further from the safety of his home, the familiar surroundings took on an eerie quality. The street lights flickered, and the distant hoot of an owl sent a shiver down his spine. Suddenly, a faint jingling sound caught his attention. Hope sparked within him. "Whiskers," he called out again, turning toward the sound. But as he moved closer, the jingling became a soft, unsettling chuckle. Kunle froze. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw bright colors disappearing behind a nearby building. With his heart pounding, he pointed his flashlight in that direction, but the beam only pierced through empty air. He took a cautious step forward, the soles of his slippers barely making a sound on the ground. The chuckle echoed again, clearer this time, sending chills down his spine. "Is someone there?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. A shadow shifted ahead, and the silhouette of a tall figure emerged, adorned in tattered, colorful fabric. The dim light revealed a painted face with a wide, unnatural grin. Kunle's breath caught in his throat as he realized he was not alone on the deserted street. Kunle's heart raced as the clown took a slow step toward him, the sound of oversized shoes scraping against the pavement echoing in the stillness. Clutching his flashlight tightly, Kunle took a step back, his mind screaming for him to run, but his feet felt glued to the ground. "Are you lost, little one?" the clown's voice croaked, each word dripping with an unsettling tone. Kunle swallowed hard, forcing himself to speak. I'm just looking for my cat," he managed to say, his voice barely audible. The clown chuckled softly. "A cat, you say? Perhaps I can help you find it." The way the clown emphasized the last word sent a chill down Kunle's spine. Without waiting for a response, the clown gestured down a narrow alleyway shrouded in darkness. "I think I saw a furry friend go that way." Kunle hesitated. Every instinct told him not to trust the stranger, but the thought of finding Whiskers pushed him forward. "Thank you," he whispered, edging toward the alley while keeping a wary eye on the clown. As he entered the alley, the air grew colder, and the walls seemed to close in around him. The faint sound of meowing echoed from somewhere ahead. "Whiskers?" Kunle called out, hope mingling with fear. He quickened his pace, the beam of his flashlight dancing across the brick walls. Behind him, the entrance to the alleyway was now obscured by shadows. Kunle glanced back but saw no sign of the clown. Relief washed over him, but it was short-lived. The meowing grew louder, more distressed. He ran, turning a corner only to find a dead end. There, sitting in the middle of the path, was Whiskers, her eyes reflecting the light. "Whiskers!" Kunle exclaimed, rushing forward and scooping the cat into his arms. "Let's get you home." As he turned to leave, he heard the clatter of something metal behind him. Spinning around, he shone his flashlight toward the noise. A rusty cage lay open against the wall, its door swinging slowly as if recently disturbed. Kunle's grip on Whiskers tightened. The sense of being watched prickled at the back of his neck, and he took a cautious step backward. Leaving so soon, the clown's voice echoed from above. Kunle looked up to see the figure perched on a roof. The night is just beginning. Fear surged through Kunle. Clutching Whiskers, he bolted back the way he came. The alley seemed longer now, the exit farther away. The sound of heavy footsteps pursued him, the clown's laughter ringing in his ears. He burst onto the main street, breathing heavily. The street lights flickered again, casting ominous shadows. Kunle looked around frantically but saw no one. Did he imagine it? Was his mind playing tricks on him? Without wasting another moment, he headed home, keeping to the middle of the street where it felt safer. As he approached his house, relief washed over him. He could see the warm glow of the lights in his bedroom window. Suddenly, a balloon floated into his path, red and shiny, bobbing gently as if held by an invisible string. Kunle stared at it, confusion and dread mixing in his mind. Attached to the end of the string was a small knot. Hesitant, he reached out and grabbed it. He opened the note and it read, "Found you," in bold letters. A cold laugh echoed from behind him. Kunle spun around to see the clown standing under a flickering street lamp, its eyes fixed on him. A panic overtook him and he sprinted toward his front door. Fumbling with the handle, he burst inside and slammed the door shut, locking it quickly. He leaned against the door, gasping for breath. Whiskers squirmed in his arms, and he set her down. His parents' bedroom door remained closed. They hadn't heard a thing. Trying to calm himself, he peered through the peephole. The street outside was empty. Maybe it was over. Maybe the clown was gone. But then a soft tapping sounded on the window behind him. Kunle's blood ran cold. He turned slowly to see a hand pressed against the glass, the clown's face partially visible, his eyes peering in with malicious glee. "Go away!" Kunle shouted, backing away. The clown pressed his face closer, the glass fogging up with each breath. The house lights began to dim, casting eerie shadows across the room. The tapping grew louder, more insistent. Windows throughout the house echoed with the same relentless sound. It wasn't just one. It seemed like multiple figures were surrounding the house. Desperate, Kunle ran to his parents' room and knocked urgently. "Mom, Dad, please wake up," he cried out, but there was no response. He opened the door to find the room empty, the bed neatly made. Confusion and terror engulfed him. Where could they be? A whisper drifted down the hallway. "Kunle, come play with us." He slammed the bedroom door shut and locked it, his mind racing. Clutching his flashlight like a lifeline, he searched for something to defend himself with. In the corner of the room stood his father's wardrobe. Maybe there was something inside. He pulled the doors open and a pile of balloons cascaded out, filling the room with a kaleidoscope of colors. Kunle stumbled back. From within the wardrobe, the clown emerged, unfolding its lanky frame, eyes gleaming with sinister delight. Why run when the fun has just begun? It haunted, advancing slowly. Kunle scrambled to his feet, wading through the sea of balloons. He dashed into the hallway, only to find it transformed. The walls were now adorned with twisted carnival mirrors, reflecting distorted images of himself and the clown lurking behind him. Disoriented, he stumbled forward, each step taking him deeper into a maze of reflections. Laughter echoed all around, high-pitched and mocking. "You can't hide, Kunle," voices whispered from every direction. He squeezed his eyes shut, trying to block out the madness. "This isn't real. It's just a nightmare," he told himself. A warm hand touched his shoulder. He spun around to see his mother smiling gently at him. Relief flooded his senses. "Mom, we have to get out of here," he exclaimed. She tilted her head, her smile widening unnaturally. "But darling, don't you want to stay and play?" Her voice warped, blending with the clown's eerie tone. Her face began to change, the familiar features melting away to reveal the painted visage of the clown. Kunle screamed, backing away until he hit a wall. Tears blurred his vision as he searched for an escape. Spotting a door at the end of the corridor, he made a desperate run for it. He burst through the door and found himself outside, back on the quiet street. The night was still, the houses dark and silent. For a moment, everything seemed normal. He took a deep breath, his lungs burning. Whiskers rubbed against his leg, purring softly. "Maybe it's over," he whispered, daring to hope. But then the street lights began to flicker once more. One by one they went out, plunging the street into darkness. In the distance, the faint sound of a carousel organ began to play, its haunting melody drifting through the air. A procession of figures appeared at the end of the street, all dressed in tattered clown costumes, their faces painted with grotesque smiles. They moved slowly, deliberately, the eyes fixed on Kunle. He backed away, the weight of dread settling in his stomach. Turning around, he saw that the other end of the street was the same. More clowns advancing towards him. Trapped, Kunle felt a surge of determination. He wouldn't let fear consume him. Clutching his flashlight, he looked for a way out. An idea sparked. The old church nearby had a bell tower. Maybe if he could get there, he could signal for help. Gathering his courage, he darted toward a side alley that led to the church. The clowns noticed his movements and picked up their pace, their laughter growing louder. Kunle sprinted faster than he ever had, his feet pounding against the pavement. He could hear the clowns closing in, the sound of their shoes slapping against the ground like a relentless drumbeat. Reaching the church doors, he found them locked. "No, no, no!" he cried, pushing and pulling desperately. He spotted an open window, hoisted himself up and climbed inside, scraping his knee in the process. Inside, the church was dark and silent. The air was thick with the scent of old wood and incense. He hurried toward the stairs leading up to the bell tower. Behind him, the sound of shattering glass signaled that the clowns were not far behind. He ascended the winding staircase, each step creaking under his weight. Reaching the top, he rushed to the bell and began pulling the rope with all his might. The bell tolled loudly, its sound echoing across the town. "Someone has to hear this," he thought desperately. Below, the clowns were pouring into the church, their voices rising in a chaotic chorus. The staircase shook as they began to climb. Kunle looked around for anything to barricade the entrance to the tower. Finding a heavy wooden plank, he wedged it against the door. It wouldn't hold for long, but it might buy him some time. He returned to the bell, continuing to ring it frantically. Tears streamed down his face as he shouted for help. The door began to splinter as the clowns pounded against it with unnatural strength. With a final crash, the door gave way. The clowns flooded into the room, surrounding Kunle. He backed up against the edge of the tower, the open sky behind him. "Stay back!" he yelled, brandishing his flashlight like a weapon. The lead clown stepped forward, its grin wider than ever. "There's nowhere left to run, Kunle." He glanced behind him, the sheer drop making his head spin. "Why are you doing this?" he cried out. The clown tilted his head. "Because it's fun," it whispered. As they closed in, Whiskers leaped from a shadow, hissing fiercely as she clawed at the clown's face. The unexpected attack caused the clown to stumble backward, knocking into the others like dominoes. Seizing the moment, Kunle looked at the rope of the bell and an idea formed. Grabbing it firmly, he swung out over the edge, holding on tightly as he descended rapidly along the side of the tower. The rope burned Kunle's hand as he slid down, the icy night wind biting at his face. His heart pounded, every toll of the bell above vibrating in his chest. Then, with a sharp crack, the rope snapped. Kunle plummeted, the ground rushing up to meet him with terrifying speed. The bell above continued to toll ominously, the sound mixing with the distant laughter of the clowns. Then, with a gasp, Kunle jolted awake. His heart thundered, slamming against his chest as if trying to break free. Sunlight streamed through the window, and birds chirped softly outside. He looked around wildly, his breath coming in short, panicked gasps. Whiskers was curled up at his feet, purring softly. The window was open, and the curtains fluttered gently in the morning breeze. "Oh, it was a dream," Conley whispered, his voice shaky. He sat up, running a hand through his damp hair. His heart began to slow down as he realized it was all a dream, a terrible, vivid nightmare. He let out a shaky laugh, relief washing over him. Whiskers stretched and jumped onto his lap, nuzzling against him. He stroked her fur, grateful for the comforting weight of her warmth. But as he reached for his phone on the bedside table, his hand froze. There, lying next to the phone, was a red balloon, its string coiled neatly around a small piece of paper. Kunle's blood ran cold as he unfolded the note. In bold scrawled letters, it read, "See you soon."
Thanks for watching. If you're new here, or if you have been watching without subscribing, do not forget to hit the subscribe button. Give this video a big thumbs up and drop all your comments below. Stay glued because we have so much more coming your way. I will see you guys in our next one. For now, bye.